Hello, Hadi. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to talk about the topic that we have been discussing on the last days, and this is, human essence. Firstly, I'm going to say why I decided to talk about this topic. I think that towards history, there have been multiple answers in order to explain it. There is the moral focusedness, there is also the more theoretical focusedness, which would be the moral and which would be the theoretical. The moral is basically that if we are either good or bad. Machiavelli talked about we were bad. Hobbes established that we were violent, and their theoretical analysis or point of view would be that we have intrinsic elements as survival instinct, as necessity of being surrounded by other people, that will be we are social, and curiosity. However, those are things that animals also have. So if animals also have this theoric part that in fact makes us humans, what would compose this famous human essence? Because at the end, it can be proved that we are either good or bad. It can be proof that we have, I think that the thing that we could say that mostly differentiates us from animals is reasoning. However, reasoning is something that you develop, isn't something that you already have. You have to go towards certain kind of experiences to acquire certain kind of knowledge in order to have it. So what would be this intrinsic element that everyone talks about in philosophy? Well, my point of view is that there is no human essence, like in the sense of the world. Why? Because I think that essence is what makes us unique, is what makes us think in a certain way, is what makes us behave in a certain way. And for me, or my logical explanation, is that environment and context is what forms or conforms this perspective, and that as this perspective or context being subjective, or being basically individual, is subjective, and as it is subjective, it can be said that we have a human essence, because saying that we have a human essence would say that that applies to every single human in the world. And I think that what makes us unique and what makes us basically who we are is the events and the things that have composed our own life in order to make us think in the way that we do. So, that is my theory, that is my perspective. The reason why I think this is a philosophical dilemma is because, as I mentioned it, I don't think that it has a universal answer. The philosophers that talk in a certain way about this are Plato, and the ones that I chose are Plato and Nietzsche. Plato used to say that we were good by nature, and that when we acted in a wrong way, it wasn't because we were bad. It was because we were ignorant, and that in order to overcome that ignorance, we had to acquire more knowledge, and that the part of acquiring more knowledge would make us more virtuous, and that by being virtuous, we would be more self-conscious and also conscious of our environment, and we were going to be really close of reaching the world of ideas. That was that part when you overpassed your limitations, and when basically you became a person conscient in every kind of sense. However, he said that we could be really close from reaching it, but we were never going to be totally there, because there were always going to exist limitations that will leave us overpass that part of complete ignorance. And therein is Nietzsche, who defies totally this part, because he doesn't say that we are either good or bad. He says that that part of the context is what has set our own limitations. Firstly, he talks about how religion has done it with people, how they have decided to acquire a sense of life, a sense of life, and also how they form their identity, their essence, all based in God. And when they decided to reject that part of God being the one that gave them sense, that gave them a way that they had to act, that they had to behave, when they decided to reject that, is that we had killed God. And by killing God is that we overpassed limitations, and we became what he defined as the Superman. And how I would relate this with the things that I said before. As I mentioned, I think that the context is is what defines the perspective and what we are. But I think that the moment when, for the circumstances or for the events in our life start moving the ideas or the pre-established conceptions that we have, is that we need to define in what to believe and in which way to behave. And I think that is that part when you decide to deconstruct the ideas that surround you, the limitations that you can have in your own mind due to the context in which you have been growth. I think that in this part is when you would form your own essence, your own identity. And for me, well, I would agree on it, because I think that also, as Arthur mentioned, existence precedes essence. And why do I use this quote? Or, well, why do I talk about this quote? Because I think that in the moment that we decide to question our own existence and we decide to give our own sense to it, as Nietzsche established, is the moment when we form our essence. For me, essence isn't something inherent. For me, essence is something that we develop towards rejecting the limitations that we have to, well, due to our context at the moment of deciding to question the things that surround us. And, well, basically that would be from those philosophers, how would I relate the ideas that they had with mine. And for concluding now, I would like to say that for me, as existentialism talks about, I think that you give your own purpose on life according to the things that make you want to go further. I don't think that we have a predetermined way of thinking, a predetermined way of acting. I think that our experiences what conform the person who you are. But I think that are when you decide to reject the ideas that surround you and form your own, that you can reach that essence. And, well, for me that would be human essence. Thank you, Hadi, and that's all.